It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
Oh, let's review.
We'll analyze the scene.
Sounds holly jolly to me.
Before it's over, let's begin.
Bum.
Bum.
That's right, folks. Since the Christmas season is upon us, we thought the way to celebrate and get into the holiday spirit would be with some holiday reviews.
6 to be exact, selected and arranged for your Yuletide pleasure.
So, silver up those bells, light the multicolored lights, and go out and build a snowman as we engage in some seasonal shenanigans. All right, and tonight we are talking not Fat Man on Batman, just Fat Man.
Right.
Dragon, I swear to God, every time I see this movie's title, I instantly think of Fat Man on Batman. I don't know.
Well, of course, now it should be Fat Man Beyond, but yeah.
Of course. Well, just the Fat Man moniker, just in
Of course.
general. I feel like Kevin Smith has owned that.
Yeah.
But so Dragon, this is something that was on both our radars last year, but I don't think either of us got around to seeing it in theaters. It was you and I. We like a good genre twist. We like a good genre twist, and this is that's exactly what this is. It's basically kind of like playing the Santa mythos straight in kind of like a very bleak sort of modern day setting, and kind of making it into a what if sort of scenario of what if a hitman was hired to kill Santa Claus. That's what we got here, and Dragon, I'm quite happy with this thing. I don't think it's a perfect movie by any means. I definitely think it has a couple pacing issues here and there. But I mean, I feel like as far as executing the concept goes, I feel like this goes a long way, man. I feel like kind of like the magical realism, but the gritty magical realism at the same time really speaks through. I feel like the characters in this one, especially the main three, are all really well developed. Dragon, I would be surprised if you and I didn't have the same biggest issue with this movie, which is the little shit himself, man. Oh, I mean, I know it's the point that kid is unlikable, but I really didn't like him anytime he was on screen. I don't know. Like, I kind of wish that the movie would have revolved around Walton Goggins entirely and just left that kid out. I don't know. That kid kind of, every time he had a scene, he kind of tanked it for me just a little bit. I like his comeuppance, don't get me wrong, but I don't know. His whole presence just kind of dragged things down just a little bit. But yeah, I mean, the main three, especially this Mrs. Claus, man, this is like a top fucking tier Mrs. Claus.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so what do you think of Fat Man, Dragon?
So yeah, I remember there was a lot of kind of fun hype for this, just in premise alone when this was announced. Like I think it was announced in 2019, towards the tail end, and then they made it, and of course it was released in 2020, which, as you can imagine, got a little complicated. So, um, so yeah, of course, expecting Mel Gibson as I think we all went into this kind of expecting Mel Gibson as Santa Claus as a dark comedy. We didn't quite get that here. It was played, far more straight than anyone expected. But unlike 8-Bit Christmas, I'm not unhappy with that choice. I'm not unhappy with going a different route than what was expected. It's like instead of like the jingle all the way to a Christmas Story switch, which with the inferior Christmas Story switch, we didn't have that here. I think they gave us something we weren't asking for, and it's maybe a bit of an upgrade. Then kind of like, oh, it's going to be kind of like a because Christmas Chronicles is the uplifting kind of unconventional Santa Claus story.
This is
Okay,
essentially R-rated Christmas Chronicles in a lot of ways.
to a degree, yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
much, yeah, it's yeah. So I mean, look, taking along the lines of Christmas Chronicles, I love an unconventional and inventive take on the Santa mythos. I love it. And this delivered on that in a really unique way to me. I think it's a grounded take on what if Santa Claus was real in our world as an indie character study film. And the biggest thing when this thing was announced, I was just instantly on board for is to shout out some we kind of talked up their work a little bit. Blinky 500. They did. Unfortunately, it's lost to the ages now at this point. I don't know why it's still lost to the ages in any way, shape, or form. Blame Fox for it, but the There was in the Deadpool series that I love so much. Before that Deadpool series existed, that Chris R. Notarelli made as Blinky 500. Um, there was a film way before that, a short film that featured Deadpool. It was like the first time he kind of Deadpool's brought to life via the hand of Notarelli, and it was Deadpool versus Santa Claus, and essentially this premise is eerily similar to this, where it's basically Deadpool gets coal one Christmas Eve, and then a year later you cut the Deadpool waiting with a gun by the chimney, just waiting to face off against Santa Claus, and it's a gunfight with Santa Claus. It's pretty awesome. So yeah, I mean, basically, I really like that. So it's like, oh yeah, yeah, that premise can absolutely work. Let's do it. Let's do it here. Yeah, yeah. I'm rather high on this one. I liked it.
All right. So give some background then.
Not a whole lot, but in terms of background, so this was the brainchild of writers and directors on this, Esham and Ian Nelms. I assume they're brothers. Could be wrong. Could be father son duo. Could just be really good friends. I don't know.
Uncle nephew.
Possibly. We don't know. We don't have the facts. The point being, let's just call them the Nelms brothers for short here. They wrote and directed this. They've been trying to get this made for roughly 10 years. Because you got to imagine Christmas movies. It's open season in Hollywood. Like we always need a little Christmas movie here and there, but what's probably harder to sell is an indie Christmas movie, especially a dark indie Christmas movie. So
I mean, indie Christmas movies are honestly pretty easy to sell as far as like if you want to go like an indie Christmas romantic comedy or something like that.
Exactly. But
an indie Christmas movie breaking down the mythos of Santa Claus and also framing it as kind of like, almost like a grindhouse style hitman movie. Yeah, that's a little bit more of a tough sell.
Thankfully, we have Saban Films. So Saban Films, they recently, I think I know them from most recently, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. They produced Kevin Smith's comeback, with Jay and Silent Bob. So yeah, Saban Films, they're the indie filmmaker's friend, as I like to see them. I believe Saban Films also did Power Rangers too back in the day. I think that was one of their big claims to fame. I could be wrong about it, but I think that was them.
Sounds right, yeah.
Saban Films. I want to pull a line from Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, but it wouldn't exactly be PC to pull it, so I'm not going to do that. So, regardless, so it was a Canadian shoot. Tim Hortons and all on the set. They they went full Canadian in terms of their shoot on this.
I love just that big twist of just like, yeah, of course Santa's just like some random obscure Canadian farmer type, mountain man.
Yep, just we're going to Alaska. It's cold enough. It's practical. So let's see. So Mel Gibson, he's been having quite the resurgence. Between Daddy's Home 2, Boss Level, and this, these were kind of like some ones. Hey, Mel Gibson's coming back, and there's talk of him kind of possibly, directing Lethal Weapon 5 in lieu of Richard Donner's passing. So
I just want to see Mel Gibson in the John Smith movie.
Oh God. Well, we know
John
eventually
Smith,
Disney's
like you've never seen him before.
Well, that's how they're going to tick everyone off. And okay, how can we do the thing where we do the live action remake, but we center it around one character?
Right, yeah.
See, that's how you get me to see Pocahontas. If you did that, okay, that's how you
centered it around John Smith.
Yeah, if you did like such a doomed premise like that, I would give it a watch.
Well, you center it around John Smith, but you make it like an actual, like, directed by Mel Gibson movie where he makes it super historically accurate.
Yeah, and to be fair, Mel Gibson, very solid director. I mean, look
he is
with Hacksaw Ridge, which again, anyway. So, lastly, David Green, who is going on to do that Disneyland biopic. David Gordon Green and Danny McBride, they produced this.
Indeed.
All right. That's it. Let's get right down to the nitty gritty.
Let's have a fireside chat, Dragon. I feel like we haven't been hyping up that vernacular yet. Let's have a fireside chat.
Yeah, a little fireside free flow convo, one could say.
All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think one of the most impressive things about this movie is how it just kind of like throws all the magical realism stuff at you, like kind of at face value, and you just kind of go with it.
Yeah, I mean, I love just the world building here with Chris Kringle, where this is a Santa Claus who's a real guy, and he deals with the world. It's not a state secret or anything. They don't know where he is except for the higher ups that send the checks. But outside of that, no one really knows where he is. And he's the fact that this Santa Claus, who's kind of essentially immortal, living on goodwill. He's dealing with mundane problems. He's just
Uh
operating out of this Alaskan farm somewhere.
huh.
Yeah, just the idea that Santa Claus, given like again, just given an accurate depiction of kind of the world as it is, he's getting disenfranchised by how naughty the kids are getting, and just when a guy who runs on goodwill is dealing in joy of the holidays is dealing with like half the kids landing on the naughty list, that's going to show some city miles on the guy, which we see, and I love that as the character study of this film, seeing
But we see it in
how.
like a very realistic way. It's not like a big naughty list. It's more so just like, like him observing the general climate of the world at large. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, I love Santa Claus having these money problems. I think the most cutting kind of brilliant kind of thing in the movie is the fact that the genesis of the money problems, and we're not talking like the dumb tax tariffs thing in Star Wars. You can actually track this. It's very simple. Okay, it's very simple in that. Okay, so he fulfilled his, he did the Christmas run, which hilariously he does in a red pickup truck instead of a sleigh, by the way, it seems. I mean, he does have reindeer, so we didn't see him make the deliveries, but he does get in the pickup truck when he goes out, so it's unclear. I don't know. I like to think he's just in the red pickup truck.
This is one of the first like Santa centric movies I can think of where the actual delivery is just not a factor at all.
Yeah, we just see him seemingly he's about to go out, and then
Yeah,
we don't see
yeah.
it at all. It's just the aftermath, which is great because we always spend so much time on that and money, which it's a very low budget. We don't
It's
have time
always
to
like
do
the
that.
big third act.
So the idea that Santa Claus, he gets compensation so he can keep the operation running. So he and his wife, on principle, do not charge royalties, which leads to the money problems. And that money problem is basically the compensation is based on volume, not just delivery, not just the deal. Like, okay, you do this every year, we'll give you this amount. Where it's like, okay, the volume of gifts you turn out is how much you get paid. And of course, if half the kids end up on the naughty list, that means your pay is going to be reduced, which is just really unfair. And the fact that he does all this good stuff for the world, this Herculean service
uh,
annually on his own operation and everything, and they won't even cut him like water and power breaks. They won't just like, okay, well, you know what, your operation, it's gratis, just you do what you do, and we'll just let you slide. Like, no, he's got to deal with these money problems. And so that's
Yeah,
that,
it's very much a commentary, I feel like, on just
yeah,
kind of like how hard it is to do genuine good in the world these days. You know what I mean? How many
exactly.
roadblocks there are towards
The
that.
fact that you just get nickel and dimed over a good deed like that
It's
is
like
just
literally Santa Claus himself can get nickel and dimed in this
like,
society.
which is just such to me. It's such an the world building in this movie does fascinate me. I think it's really interesting.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I mean, all that's great. So I mean, just to dovetail back here before we get any further into the Santa Claus of it all. So our premise, in essence, is again a world where Santa Claus is a very real entity. You have this this spoiled rich heir, Billy Weenan,
All right,
who's
so I
just.
gotta know, Dragon, did you not like this kid as much as I did not like this kid?
I mean, Tiki. To be fair, this one
I
was
know the point
absolutely.
is to not like him, I know, but he sucked the air out of the room for me.
I mean, we don't go back to him all that often. He just checks in the. I mean, I'll admit, did we need the whole check-in, the progress check-ins? Probably not. But I mean, we only need him for the premise. That's all we need him for. And that we need him for the setup and
Yeah,
payoff.
I know we only need him for the premise. I'm just saying, like once the movie actually gets going, it really gets going and it
Yeah.
doesn't stop. But that first act, just because this kid is prominent in the first act, it is kind of a little bit of a little hurdle to get through to get to the good stuff.
I
Is
mean,
all
look,
I'm
you're not wrong, but we have to show this kid is royally like the top of the naughty list
saying. Uh huh.
material. In that he's really bad. I think I liked how I love the shades of gray we have in moments. Not with the kid, not the kid's all evil. The kid's pure evil, but the the shades of gray with Walton Goggins is amazing in this movie. Goggins,
I really like how they write Walton Goggins' character. He is so goddamn eccentric. I love how meticulous
he's very
and like
Albuquerque
well thought
versus.
out he is, like in every interaction he has.
Yeah, like Mike Ehrmantraut would love this guy.
Right, right.
So I love the fact of so Billy Wynn, and like this I love how nice this girl was. He's like, hey, have a Merry Christmas, Billy, after she beat him at the science fair, and he wants to get even because it's a blow to his ego. And yet Goggins is like, after he delivers the like the Albuquerque verse threat to make sure there's no reprisals or anything, he says, hey, listen. You're a real good kid. I'm Santa Claus is going to notice that. Merry Christmas. So it's showing like there is a care and there is a compassion from our hitman who has to carry out this ridiculous, the
Uh-huh.
ridiculous whims of this very evil, spoiled child. So I mean, in that regard, I mean, that's all set up, and basically all we really needed, we could have trimmed Billy down. Ultimately, we could have, because all we need to know is okay, Billy. It's a little more elaborate than I thought. I thought it was just going to be Billy. It's just randomly rich kid, lump of coal, calls a hitman. That's what I thought it was going to be. So you're right. In terms of extending, okay, so he has a working relationship with this hitman. We didn't need that, but it didn't. I don't know, it's kind of fueling the fires for how bad the kid is. It's what it is.
Sure, sure.
Sure.
Okay. I mean, and like you said, after the first act, he's pretty much out of it, so that's
Yeah.
fine. But like I said, though, it's like I do. It is kind of a problem to me when movies have like, when it takes a while to really get into the good stuff, and I feel like this movie does unfortunately suffer from that just a little bit.
Let me say this on the pacing's behalf, though. Outside of that, though, Tiki,
Okay.
I like that we take our time and get to know the mainly our big two kind of our
Okay,
two
let me make this
characters.
clear.
And
Once we're on the road,
yeah,
it's great. Like I honestly think some of the best stuff in the movie is in Act Two, just the weird stopovers that Walton Goggins takes, like
yeah.
the hamster scene fucking killed me, Dragon.
Oh, it's great. And again, I love there's this I love how much character we mind. And by the way, you know what his
Yeah,
nickname is in the
totally.
movie. You know what they call him in he's credited as in the movie, right?
Who? What?
Skinny man. So he's the skinny man going up against the fat man. That's
Oh,
the
that's
idea. So
awesome. Oh, I didn't even realize he
so I
wasn't
mean,
named. I
no,
like
no, well, no,
that.
he is named in the movie, but he's credited as the skinny man, which is really
Oh, okay,
awesome. So
okay.
his name's Jonathan Miller, I believe. It's Jonathan
Oh,
something.
right, right.
Yeah, it's Jonathan
But
Miller.
that is cool though. I like that as a script thing.
Because
That's
they only
cool.
name him once when Santa Claus, who would know his name, just names him that one time. But that the whole movie is like he's unnamed, so he's the skinny man. That's the
Right,
idea. So,
right.
regardless, though, yes. So I love the layers we gave to this guy. For example, the whole pet hamster thing. I think it shows his soft side in that this is a guy who he's still that kid, that nice kid deep down, who again was rewarded by Santa once, and then his life was just so so screwed up by by his parents and everything. He just kind of got disenfranchised himself. But the fact in that pet store scene, that lady is pushing the snake on him. I can read people. You're a snake guy, and the fact that he's a hamster guy, it just shows you that no, he is not all bad. He is not just like a creepy, scary, hitman. He's very particular about things, but deep down, he is that wounded child. He is the hamster kid.
Totally.
And of course, mom is still not this. He calls out that lady, compares him to his mother. Like, yeah, my mother didn't listen, no one to shut the f up either.
All right.
But yeah,
You want to get into the Fat Man and Mrs. Claus?
uh, yeah, sure, yeah.
All right. So, like I said, I really think this might be one of the all-time great Mrs. Clauses in film, Dragon. I really do.
Yes, Marianne John Baptiste. Yeah, she's
It's such a
tremendous.
clever reinterpretation of the character. It really is.
You see just how in love and how supportive they are of each other. And honestly, she
But
contributes
you
to my
also see the hardships, and you see them working through the hardships.
yeah, I mean these two have lived lifetimes together because the whole like kind of like rejuvenated by the the goodwill and the joy of what they do essentially. So I tell you, man, I think the MVP scene of the film. I wonder if you had this too. I think the scene that just hits me in the feels that I love so much in this movie on the rewatch. I forgot how great it was. So Santa Claus feeling disenfranchised, and the fact he's going to have to like work with the government though he doesn't want to. He's going to have to bring like a corporate sponsorship into
Which,
it,
by
run
the
the
way, that
operation.
whole working for the government thing, that kind of, for me, I have no idea if it was intentional or not. It probably wasn't. But it kind of had shades of the whole, like, Walt Disney having to do propaganda films for World War II.
I I don't think that's far off, Tiki. I don't think that. I mean, it could be
Uh-huh.
a little bit. I mean, a little bit. I think it's just. I think it's more just an inevitability of business that Disney had to deal with. So I think it's just kind of. I think it's kind of art imitating life in that case. I don't think it's directly intentional, but it's possible.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anyway, so Yeah, so he's feeling disenfranchised with all this, and Ruth, as Santa Claus is basically pounding it out in the punching bag, Ruth leaves him like these files or like kind of like thank you letters possibly
Oh
from
yeah, that
the
was
kids,
easily, yeah,
and
definitely,
just the
definitely the best.
pictures sorry.
No, yeah, no, for sure. I'm just agreeing with you.
Yeah, and you had these pictures of the gifts, and there's a great symbolism that also applies to the Skinny Man story. The symbolism of the gift was a really great idea this movie had, where the toy, the whole toy runner with them. And in this case, what we see at the moment, so we have like this picture of a little girl with a little toy fire engine to her as a firefighter grown up years later. That elates the heart. And you have like a boy with an easy bake oven to now he's a chef. It's like the beautiful pick me up to the disenfranchised Santa Claus, and he's just again just utterly revitalized and made jolly again thanks to his wonderful wife. Just a perfect scene, just a perfect like just we have the super gruff Santa Claus and seeing his heart melted by that is beautiful.
Uh-huh.
So back to the toy thing with the Skinny Man. I just want to the toy idea basically we have this thing where on the Skinny Man's occupation he's a toy collector. He buys toys, and he's very specific and he's very dedicated to that aspect of it because again he's the wounded kid and he buys toys that specifically were given by Santa Claus to kids, and this because they have like this little placard at the bottom made in Santa's workshop, which is
That
great.
was one of my favorite pieces of real building right there.
Yeah,
It's
so
a
I
great way to
love
kind of like differentiate the presence right there.
So the cool thing is that with the first guy, and it cements it with everything else, with that photo scene, is that those gifts are the childhood dreams, and that gave him a baseball. The guy wanted to be a baseball player as a kid before he tore his ACL, and so that was Santa's like, "Hey, go pursue your dream." So the link there, and the fact that the Skinny Man gets a cop car. My theory is that he was destined to be a cop, but he couldn't move past the trauma he incurred. He couldn't I imagine there's a lifestyle perhaps if he didn't hold a grudge against Santa Claus where he would have become a cop with a soft spot for kids dealing with abusive homes. I think that's what would have
Uh-huh.
happened because
I could see it.
he's a very effective hitman. He would have been very good on the job. I don't know. So I just love the toy symbolism and how important that is with him. And like, if, for example, he's buying these things, especially from kids. Like he buys the plane from the kid, probably my second favorite scene in the movie where he has this he has a genuine sympathy for these kids when he buys that plane and he buys it for $150 from this little kid, and he possibly deprived the world of a pilot for all we know because he took that
Right,
toy away
right.
from
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
It's
All right.
great. All right, let's see. So I'm sorry, anything else on Ruth you wanted to get in there?
I mean, I just think it's just a really creative choice just all around, kind of like bending the race, of course, making her British, just, and making her a little bit of a hothead to kind of match wits with Chris.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just a very, very unique take on Mrs. Claus. But, by the same token, she, like you said, she's just as warm. She's still the heart of the story in a lot of ways.
So let's talk about Santa Claus in a small town for a bit here, because you know me. When it comes to Christmas Chronicles, my favorite scene in that movie is when Nick he walks in the bar and he knows everyone by name and he charms the pants off of most of them. So this is kind of like the edgier version of that. It's like a little bit more grip, but still that it's kind of the tone of that scene. I really liked it when he walked into goes to the bar and he talks the man from cheating on his family.
Uh-huh.
With the barkeep who doesn't blame for being a little promiscuous, but it's like, oh, I've known Sandy for a long time. So I just love that he's looking out for the kids, both the old and young. Just looking out for them. It's really nice.
Yeah, he kind of implements his will in kind of subtle ways, for sure.
Yeah, and he's got like a dynamic with the way Santa operates here. He gets the letters from the kids, so he knows what toys to make. So he has like a post office box number, and he chats it up with Herman. And Herman, I love how Herman and Sandy they're reacting. Oh my god! After he perks up after that letter scene, he's all jolly. Like, oh man, he's getting warm milk and hellos all of a sudden. What's going on here?
Right, right.
Should we talk about the elves?
Yeah, I mean, the elves I thought were maybe, I don't know, like, you don't really have a ton of room in the story for them, but I thought the idea of seven was good. How there
Yeah.
was, how you didn't replace the numbers, you just carried it on. Like, I assume number one was the first foreman, and they just kept it up.
Yeah, yeah, and of course, 1 through 6 passed away over the
Uh
years.
huh.
So I love the dynamic between. It sounds so weird out of context. I love the dynamic between the elves and the military.
Yeah,
Because so
yeah, yeah, for
seriously though,
sure.
I love that the military does respect. Like there's no derision or anything, derisive comments or like scoffing at me. There's a question about the diet with the whole cake. We're doing like the elf kind of cakes and sugars and everything. But yeah, I just love that there's a genuine respect after that whole like why is it 7? Why is it numbers? Well, it's more efficient, and we don't replace change numbers because we honor the people that came before us. Like Captain Jacobs respects the crap out of 7.
Sure, sure.
They're impressed. Like you got Santa Claus who's on steroids who can lift like giant crates.
I,
It's
I love
pretty.
that scene with the with Santa Claus kind of like low key demonstrating his powers for sure.
Yeah, and again, he does have kind of like a low key healing factor too, which is why he doesn't die in the movie.
Yeah, I gotta say that was kind of like a nice like a twist that wasn't really a twist. It's like I almost was like I kind of saw that coming, but at the same time, it was satisfying to see play out.
Yeah,
Especially because at that point in the movie, you really were like emotionally invested in the Santa Claus, especially because of the element of Mrs. Claus. It's like you really didn't want to see this Mrs. Claus alone. They
yeah,
they just make such a cute couple, and so this was kind of like a an implied death that didn't turn out to be a death that worked for me.
yeah. And again, what I love in the movie, just with the pacing and how that kind of plays into it, Tiki, is again, I love that we take time to get to know these characters and we build to the climax and then the moral. So we take time to really build to that encounter, and I love that. Like you can see, oh god, the skinny man's closing in on him just as he's regained his Christmas spirit and things are going good for him. He's on his way.
Uh huh.
Yeah. So let's see. I tell you one thing. There's with Goggins. There's the methodical kind of Albuquerque verse, kind of like kind of tact that he takes in finding Santa Claus. I think it's a shame he killed that one mailman. I get why he killed the other guy, like the boss, because he saw his face. But he killed that poor post guy. Oh yeah, you want it? Yeah, my boss is in this building here. He says, oh yeah, sure, thanks. And he shoots him like, oh come on, man. I
He's
love his
very
life.
kill happy in the movie. I feel like that's kind of like a running gag at a certain point.
Yep. I love the specificity on him. Whereas it's a great gag. I mean, Tiki, you and I, at some point, someone has thought this watching a movie, and we called it out here, and I loved it so much. Where as he gets the information from the postmaster general, whoever like whoever's running the corporate building, he puts down the notepads, just write it down. No, use a blank page, make it legible.
Yeah, use a blank page. Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely.
Make it legible. I want to be able to read. Don't write out of fear. Write it.
A little bit of an Albuquerque verse kind of realism there with the blank page.
Absolutely. Yeah. She's gonna need a shoe.
I
So
could totally see Mike scolding some guy over right. Like, what are you kidding me? That page is like 75% full already. Come on, turn over to a new one.
Unrelated note. It would be amazing if we had a Jonathan Banks Santa Claus once.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah. That's the next Miracle on 34th remake we need. 34th Street we need to remake.
That is a good particular Santa Claus role for him.
It'd be wonderful.
Uh-huh.
All right, so the big action set piece. So I'll admit, I do question how. Let me get this straight. All these armed soldiers, they can't take on one guy. I know our guy's good here, but still, like there are no issues, and like he's completely surprised. Oh god, I did not expect the whole military presence here. Like, I'm gonna plow right through him. It's the little thing that occurred to me watching the movie. Man, those soldiers are really inept. At the end of the
I
day.
kind of feel like you just have to give that the benefit of the doubt,
Yeah,
honestly.
sure. I mean, it was a great set piece. It was,
Uh-huh.
I tell you what it really reminded me of. It reminded me of the opening of Scrooge with Lee Majors. Remember we have like the action kind of the fake out with the way Scrooge opens, and then we just cut to like a Frank Ross and the meeting.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
All right, so Fat Man versus Skinny Man. So again, I already went over the cop car stuff, but I loved Santa Claus's genuine sincerity. That Chris kind of like as he kind of apologizes here. He says, "I'm sorry I couldn't replace your parents. I'm sorry I couldn't give you that." I think he meant it, right?
I think he means it with everyone. Yeah.
And I love that in this fight though, because again, he's got a bit of a healing factor. He's not trying to kill this guy. He tries like he hits him with the when they get to the wood pile, like, he hits him with the thing, like stop it, just stop. And of course, he gets him
Yeah,
stabbed.
he's trying to stop the fight. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, very on brand. Again, this is the kind of Santa I would have loved as a kid, man. Just the idea of a Santa Claus and kind of more of an action setting who's gonna like he's gonna go far, but he's not gonna kill anyone. At least not intentionally, you know. Yeah. So let's see. Of course, Ruth at the end of the day, she saves her husband. She gets the drop on the skinny man,
and I believe that she would kill him where Santa would not.
Absolutely, she'll do anything to protect that man. Yeah. And I love that there was no joy exacted in the skinny man's death. I felt
no, there wasn't. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and the attack, I like to think, rewatching the movie, I like to think the attack and everything that happened with the skinny man, maybe the guilt. I think guilt or no, I think ultimately what happens is Chris. That's the wake up call he needs because obviously he tracks down the kid after that. But just the fact that I didn't look too carefully into what was going on in this kid's home life, and I didn't probably make amends to steer him away from nursing this vendetta against me. I should try to change that, and the first way, the main way I'm going to try that is by putting the fear of God into this little punk, which he does, and my God, is it a satisfying
just drinking the milk full of fentanyl like a
yes. See, so that kid was such a prick. He's Robbie stealing his grandmother, who's basically he's going to inherit.
Oh, he's a total piece of shit, man. Like, as someone who's lived with my grandparents for most of my life, absolute piece of fucking garbage.
Yeah, we're not talking like nickel and dime stuff. We're talking like I'm assuming like thousands, hundreds of thousands to millions.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, just drinks that fentanyl just to put the fear of God into him. Oh, fentanyl, that'll do the trick. So just Gibson putting it on, man. It's the idea, basically Santa Claus taking on a bit of a Krampus tactic, bit of a Krampus edge.
Totally.
Really cool idea.
And I love the way that this scene is staged because at first I was like, oh, are they going to kind of like pussy out and not show the eye? But it's like, no, they show the eye, and they show the eye at the perfect time with the perfect
and they had
line.
the perfect line. The perfect line. So by my hand, you'll know consequence, and then the fat man's got his eye on you.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Gibson still got it, baby. So again, he's taking a very direct approach, a very proactive approach in instilling goodwill in the kids. So and also think about this. There's going to be less coal given out, which means the operation will be on his own terms. So instead of like being contracted by the military to do like satellites and probably weapons down the line, he can do it on his own terms again. Things worked out for old Santa Claus, man. And we had like the optimistic rebuild and cookies. Then the movie on, which was nice.
All right. Okay, sweet Jesus, I am in pain. All right.
Well, we're at the end, so it's final thoughts, man.
All right. Well, final thoughts. I just think this was, you know what it reminds me of, Dragon? It reminds me of kind of, this might be a weird comparison, but just with the way that it handles kind of like the weird magical realism, it kind of is like a Christmas version of Bubba Hotep in a way.
Yeah, that's a great comparison. Yeah.
So I'll kind of leave it at that. Like, I think this movie, like, it's not perfect. It's definitely got some pacing problems to it, but it's a very, very interesting experiment of a movie that pays off well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an out there film, but I'd say a solid one. It's refreshing to see a world weary Santa Claus now and again. Like we should see this now and again instead of just like doing we need more Christmas Chronicles take on a Santa Claus, and we need some takes like this as well. And I really respect how this film went against the grain in that regard. And I think it's a shame. The pandemic really hurt this film big time, Tiki. This film financially was a big flop financially because of the pandemic and the home release and everything.
I mean, to be fair, I think this would have been probably a hard sell regardless.
It would have been. That's what I'm saying. But I mean, the movie, the budget was $20 million, only made like 1.6 million. That's a shame to me. So that's what I'm saying. I mean, Tiki, I didn't expect this to do well. But I expect it at least to make its money back, or at least come really close to it. So I think that to me is a shame. And I wish, in general, though, I wish the film got more buzz because I've heard some critics say, "Oh, it's better." Basically, it's people who are actually doing the criticism versus like, let's just type stuff just to kind of like tell people what to see or not. It's like people have actually seen the movie. They've said, "No, yeah, there's a lot to like here." But so it's a shame it didn't get more buzz. Maybe us talking about it will change that. Maybe we're looking for a miracle. I don't know.
I feel like you're a little bit optimistic in that front, buddy, but I do think it has the potential to be a cult classic down the line. I
Don't
do.
slap the cookie out of my hand, man.
I'm sorry. I'm just like realistically, Dragon. We might change like a few people's minds.
Well, I tried putting a little sugar on it. I wasn't trying to say this is what will happen. I'm not Nostradamus.
All right, fair enough.
I'm not Nostradamus Noel here. Anyway, so Tiki, let's peek beneath the wrapping paper because we're eager beavers.
Yeah, this one we're gonna take a look at the naughty list. Dragon, it's a big old fat cheesy bad movie straight out of the 90s starring Mr. Hulk Hogan and Ed Begley Jr.
Woo!
It's Santa with muscles, baby.
Yeah.
No idea what to expect from this one.
Neither do I. All right, folks. I'm the dash away all. But as we wave goodbye, don't you cry. We'll be back again next time.
With even more seasonal shenanigans.
La la la
La
la
la la la la
la
la
la.
la.
The fat man's got his eye on you.